What's up, Netrunners? Welcome to The Art of Running, a show that's all about letting you take a glimpse into the mind of experienced Netrunner players so that you can see how they think, how they make decisions, how they strategize, and hopefully you'll be able to learn from them as you watch. The way we do this is that we have a couple of good players come over and we record a game of them and then bring them over and let them do commentary over the game so that we can hear what they're thinking as they play. And today, we have two seasoned players from the Atlanta area, Holly and Travis. How's it going, guys? Thanks for coming.
Pretty good.
Thanks for having us.
So, we've already recorded the game. And so, Holly, what do we got coming from you today for this game?
Well, I will be running Noise. It's a fairly standard Noise deck nowadays where it mostly relies on viruses to mill the corporation's cards. There is the Aesop's Pawn Shop to recycle used viruses and get some money back. There's the adjusted chronotype wild side combo to draw like crazy. And finally, there's Faust to get into servers, remotes, and archives as needed.
All right. And what is she facing up against, Travis, as the Corp?
Well, she'll be facing up against HP Engineering the Future. Instead of a Glacier deck, it'll be a Fast Advance deck. So it'll be focused on scoring out a lot of HP's 3-for-2 agendas off Sand, City Grid, and Biotic Labor, and hopefully leverage some help from recursion, such as team sponsorship. And the ice is focused around Next Ice, so that'll be the ice package I use today.
All right, sounds like it's going to be a good match. HB Fast Advance versus Noise. Well, we've already recorded the game, so without further ado, let's jump in. All right, so we are in game. We've got Holly on the right playing Noise, and Travis on the left playing HB Engineering the Future. So, Travis, as an ETF player, what are you thinking when you're going up against Noise? What are you looking for in your opening hand?
Well, in my deck, I have a lot of Next Ice, so I'm kind of worried about Parasite here. So what I'm looking for is probably ice like Architect, Wall Static, cheap ice that can get me on the board, and probably a Jackson.
Okay. And Holly, as a Noise player going up against ETF, what are your expectations for the match?
Well, ETF, regardless of my runner, is just a poor matchup for me as a player. So the biggest thing that I'm looking for is Imp, because I'm assuming they're going to be running a lot of assets.
Mm-hmm.
I also would really like to see at least one part of the Golden Noise combo, the Aesop's, Wild Side, and Chronotype.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally I want either an Aesop's or Wild Side as well, if possible. And
Okay.
the dream would be those and a Faust.
Fantastic.
So
How are you feeling about that hand, Holly?
I can't quite see what's in it. Let's see here. Yeah, that was my pretty excellent starting hand, actually. It had a lot of economy in it. It had a virus. It had the Aesop's.
Now, Travis, side
So-
looks like we got some ice and some team sponsorships already.
Yeah, I chose to keep that hand just because I had enough ice, and I figured if I could start scoring fast and trigger those team sponsorships, that would really set back, Noise. So.
Yep.
But when I see ETF, I know they're going to get a big money advantage, whether they're going fast or Glacier, especially Glacier. So seeing all that money right there off the bat was...
Yeah, look at that money.
It was
We
a
got
pretty...
cash Aesop's double gated cast is a lot.
Yeah.
And it looks like that cash milled an Architect.
Yeah, I really did not want to see that Architect milled. But I did draw a Jackson, which I was happy to see. So at this point, I'm looking to see points. I want to rush out. Usually they don't have their breakers. And unfortunately, I didn't have any agendas, so I decided to just go for money right here.
Sure. And money off the daily cast, and Aesop's that cash classic play. So now, yeah, all you're missing here is the Wild Side Chronotype, Holly.
Which I did get... There's the Chronotype right there.
And so, yeah, it looks like you're just drawing up this turn. Is that what you're hunting for, is the Wild Side at this point?
I'm hunting for the Wild Side. The Wild Side was the big one. Also, anything to just really get a little bit of tempo going, whether it's Faust, Mimic, Corroder, which are the 3 breakers that I'm running in this deck. Even just an Imp, so I could start face-checking some ice and maybe get into that remote where I believe that's an Adonis is.
So you've got 2 team sponsorships. You draw into a Future is now, Travis, and you install both sponsorships. What is your game plan here going forward?
So you saw me drawn to that tiering. I saw the Futures Night and tiering, so I figured I'd set up for the score here. So those 2 remotes you see were is team sponsorship. Next turn, you can probably expect to see me to try to score out that future is now.
Yeah, and depending on how things go, you might be able to make use of that architect.
Yeah, that's really what I want to get back.
Yeah, team sponsorship seems real good against noise in a lot of ways because they sort of mill you into the things that you want to get back with their scores. Yeah. But right now, what are you thinking, Holly? You drew, and now you're kind of sitting here pondering.
At that point, I'm trying to decide if I think those assets are worth hitting.
Mm-hmm. And you hit a peddler.
I hit a peddler. My initial thought for those assets was probably that they were money cards, and I typically don't try to worry about outmoneying ETF just because they're going to get so much. Mm-hmm. So assuming those were Adonises, I didn't touch them.
And you did get a wild side under that peddler, so you went ahead and installed the chronotype, presumably to pop that wild side at the end of his turn.
Exactly.
So now we see that that Turing remote setup. Yep. With futures now going in there. Are you worried at all about her going to just face check that turn 1?
I should be. A David is common in a noise list. If she puts down a David, she can get through that server pretty easily. But I tend to take risks, and I really want to get everything that she's going to mill soon. And so I decided to go ahead and put it down and just take that risk.
Now, another interesting thing that we see in Holly's hand is a Clot. Now, this is an HB Fast Advanced deck, and you do have Sansan in the deck. Do you have much tech against a Clot? Like, are you expecting it, or how do you feel about it?
I do have 1 CVS. I'm hoping that, if the team sponsorships can stay online, I can always pull back a CVS. That way, when I'm fast advancing on the Sansan, I have a CVS ready to burn. Yeah. In case they put all a Clot.
Now, we do see that Turing face check after the Faust install, and unfortunately that Faust is not going to be able to get through. So I think the Faust install is probably a good idea. Oh, and ditching the Clot with the clone chip. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I see it, so I'm happy that it's there, but I know clone chip can pull it back out, so I know I'm going to need to find that CVS soon enough. Fortunately, I don't have fast advance here. That wasn't a Sansan. I can just score straight from the remote. Mm-hmm. But going forward, I definitely need to be careful when I choose the fast advance because that clone chip I know is going to be saved for that Clot.
So what are you searching here for futures now? Probably a Sansan, I'd imagine?
I believe I grabbed the Sansan. Yeah, you just see me pull it from the deck there. And the next key target is CVS, right?
Sure, exactly, yeah. And you do have an ABT in hand. So what's your plan here with the futures nows?
The plan for the future is now?
Sorry, the team sponsorship, my mistake.
I think at this point, there was... Oh, I did pull the architect back.
Yeah.
So I pulled that back. With the Clot thread out, I think I need more ice. So I put that. I go ahead and put it down just to have it there. She doesn't have any imps on board. She doesn't have a David. So I feel relatively safe leaving the Sansan behind that Turing. The next thing I probably want to do is either ice up that remote so it's really hard to get to the Sansan, or find CVS and just start rushing out agendas.
Mm-hmm. And we actually saw there, at least lately in our meta, I've seen a lot of Glacier ETF, and so I wasn't actually expecting this to be fast advanced, so I went ahead and I popped that clone chip to get some money going and a mill going. And of course, I think this turn I see that it's a Sansan, and I regret everything. But
yeah, popping that clone chip, now that there's some restrictions in place and you can't, it's not viable to put in 3 clone chips because you lose so much
absolutely
influence.
Not. Yeah. I actually, I should have mentioned, but this deck that I'm playing in the video runs a clone chip, but since then I've actually swapped it out for a Levy.
Okay.
Since it only has 1 in that deck, and there's only room for 1 anyway.
So, with that Turing res now, what is your game plan here, Holly? You're installing a medium, and it looks like a Sansan gets milled there. And another medium, so it looks like you're going for R&D pressure is the game plan right now.
That's the game plan. I'm really hoping to get an imp, which I do pretty soonish, I believe, to get those team sponsorships out of the way. I know that I'll be able to get through the Turing once I have David, but at the moment I'm not hard-pressed to get in. He's only got 1 agenda point, and at this point, when I have the 2 mediums in hand, it's kind of hard to not immediately focus on that.
True. And seeing the clone chip gone, looks like Travis is going to go ahead and fast advance out this ABT. Yep. Do you fire here?
I do. I'm hoping to put more ice on R&D. Seeing those 2 mediums and Faust out, is scary. And I miss, that trigger didn't get any ice, so now I'm really worried about double medium. And so I go ahead and use team sponsorship to pull ice back. Even though I didn't get the free res, at least sponsorships are helping me out with trying to protect R&D.
Yeah, with those sponsorships and Jackson in hand, I feel like fast advancing is really safe here. Or not just fast advance, but firing the ABT.
Right.
So if anything gets pitched, which we saw an ABT did get pitched, you can team sponsor it back, or team sponsor protection, or team sponsor Jackson himself.
Right, and I had that Jackson in hand, so I felt really safe doing that.
Seems good.
Yeah.
And you did use that team sponsorship to put an Ichi that I think was milled. So that is an Ichi as the second ice over R&D.
Yeah, and so at this point, if she's probably going to try to hit R&D, because that's where, double medium should just tell you, let's go. They both have a virus counter on there. Faust can probably get through anything. Her hand is filled up, so let's see what's on R&D, right?
Yep. Ooh, and there's the Ichi. And how many cards does Holly have in hand? I can't tell.
If I recall correctly, I had 5 or 6 right now. It might be 4,
I think
actually.
it might be 3. I think it's 2 Parasites and a Deja Vu.
Yes, that's correct. Because I had to end up throwing both of those Parasites. Ichis are a really rough thing to hit.
And if I'm counting correctly, I think this was click 3. So you have 1 click extra. So you could click through 1 and then pump break. And now Travis did go broke here in order to res that. So he can't pump a trace.
Correct.
And
Unless I'm mistaken, that's the route I ended up taking.
So what are you pondering? Are you just trying to think whether or not you want to get anything trashed, or what's the strategy going through your mind at this point?
Right there, the big thing was how many clicks I wanted to spend. If I wanted to, at that point, honestly, it took me a minute to realize he didn't even have any money, and so that was a poor play on my part. And once I saw he had no money, that's when I'm just thinking, okay, well, I do need to keep going because he can't res this next thing, and I can get at least 3 looks because of mediums.
All right, well, you do go ahead and pump break. Pitching 2 Parasites was pretty sad, but
It was very sad.
yeah, we do see 1, 2 Archived Memories, and a Jackson. You have 3. Gonna go and trash him. Probably not a bad play, especially against Noise. But
Yeah.
you do go broke.
so at this point, I'm kind of I'm wondering if I should have res that Ichi, because I'm broke and there's no way to bounce back. She milled a lot of my breaker bays. I don't have any campaigns out. I have to get money.
So just take 3.
Hitting those breaker bays is a really big hit to ETF, regardless of if they're faster Glacier.
So do you remember what was under this Peddler? I don't think I was able to get a good look.
There was my last Parasite, there was an Aesops and a Lamprey.
Okay.
And if I recall correctly, I think I used it for the Lamprey for the money at one point, but I might be wrong there.
So Travis spent his money his turn just gaining money, which opens up a little bit of an opportunity for you. You're pondering what to ace on. It looks like you take a medium. What led you to that decision?
The decision was I really needed money because I had none after that Jackson trash, and I knew that considering he was very short on money, I had to do something to take advantage of that because ETF is very rarely low on money. And so of my options of things to trash, there weren't a lot of them. I couldn't really justify getting rid of David because Turing was out there already res. I knew it was there. And so David's my only real answer to that. I couldn't get rid of Faust because it's my main breaker. So between the options, I figured I could live with 1 medium, and I believe I had a Deja Vu in hand at this point. And so if I wanted to get another one back, I could.
Now you did Deja actually for the cash and clone chip there.
Oh, yes, I did.
So clone chip seems good, especially with that Sansan live. Cash will get you the money.
Clone chip? What else?
Sorry, the
Imp.
cash and
Imp?
clot.
Clot, that's
Yes,
it.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, so seeing that installed now, I can't score from hand anymore, and I'm going to lose a lot of tempo. I don't have any money. I need to click for money. I also want to score that Chronos protocol I just drew, or Chronos project, and I can't. So I'm going to lose a lot of tempo trying to clear viruses here.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right decision.
That definitely was the right decision.
Yeah,
That
because
was-
that medium already had 2 counters, and then you had the clot. I think there's just way too. It made it too good.
Yeah, it's a tempo hit for the court, but it's very much a
It's necessary.
It's a necessity.
But now I'm worried. You know, my Sansan's gonna go. I'm glad that she had to pay manually for this. You know, I thought she was gonna get an imp, but assuming she had imp, the tempo would be well in Holly's favor here, and she's gonna clear it, and I'm just gonna be stuck in the mud. I have 3 credits. I have nothing. I know HQ ice is not res. That bottom ice is not res. She could probably click through Ichi if she chose, if she wanted to do that. But
So it's an interesting position. You're up 3 points, excuse me, to 0. But because of that Ichi res, it put a little bit of tempo hit on her, but it put a huge tempo hit on you.
correct.
Having to go broke. And milling a wall of static there.
Now here I was worried she's about to hit. You can see how many agendas are in HQ. I thought she was going to force a res on HQ and come and find all those points. So now I really need that money, right? So I just click up the credits and hedge. Yeah.
Seems
So
good.
if she decides to hit HQ, she's really going to steal my money, but she sells it, so I'm kind of happy to see that go.
Yeah, there definitely was a pretty big temptation there, just because I hadn't seen you trying to score out a lot. And so I said there has to be at least a couple in HQ.
And we see you bemoaning the first appearance of Imp.
Immediately after I trashed that San with 5 credits.
And using that Peddler to pop your last Parasite, it's going to go on that Ichi. So this is supposed to be at the end of his turn. So the one from Grimar goes on, and then beginning of your turn, the second one goes on.
Correct.
That was the sequencing there.
But Ichi's it's a very rough ice to hit. It might cost 5 to res, but it's one of ETF's strongest tools right now, I think, in my personal opinion, just because it's a 4 strength, so it's safe from Mimic if you disregard Data Suckers. And that's if you wanted to break even just 3 of them with Faust, that's still 3 cards from your hand each time you go through. And so right here, I'm trying to just make the Ichi a little more manageable.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wanted to hit R&D, like right now it's got 2 tokens on it, so it's matching the strength of Faust, and I don't have to buff it. So I'm trying to keep it under control a little bit.
So you noticed I looked through my face downs on archives there. I noticed that she had milled a lot of my good ice, and she's got Clot out again. I mean, she deja vu'd for the Clot, so there's no way for me to fast advance. I'm pretty poor. I have no breaker bays. I really want CVS. I'm playing catch up at this point, and so I want CVS, and I want to, set up money somehow. Breaker Bay into Adonis, find more hedge funds. I think there's 2 Jacksons in the bin at this point, but I don't remember. Yeah.
I think there's one on the board still. But what we see is an immediate purge after that Imp comes out, and Holly decides to ace-op that Imp. So is that pretty much an insta-purge, even if the Imp is the only thing going on?
I mean, I was actually telling him, I think even just a solitary Imp, if that's all you're purging, I think it's worth it. Imp is such a strong card.
Yeah, I think at that point there was not much else I could do, so the best option seemed like to purge.
Seems fair. Now, there's quite a lot in archives at this point, Holly. Are you going to run on there anytime, or is this a situation where you just want to mill, and make a glory run?
I believe I run at it relatively soonish because I know there's a very tragic moment regarding a certain run event. So I believe that was relatively soonish.
I think it's
yep,
right here.
There it is.
We got to run amok on archives, which we know is an architect, unfortunately.
Yeah, here I don't know. I think I just wanted to just slap run amok in the face.
Which is fair. Yeah.
But there's only one agenda in there, and I don't know if that. I mean, I had 9 credits, so 4 of that is gone just to make a statement against run amok. But I'm not sure if it's worth it at this point because I'm so poor.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be focusing on other centrals and getting money.
And Holly's able to get in there with Faust anyway. And you pop Jackson, save. I think it was the agenda that died to ABT before.
I believe so. I think there's
I think
one.
it was
in
another
there.
ABT.
Yeah, there's one.
Yeah.
And you take back the archive memory. Seems good.
Just definitely a good choice.
And you can see there's a whole bunch of ice there.
And I think Jackson is also an option here. Because the one that she trashed, or is that already shuffled back? Maybe I missed it.
I think no, it's not. I leave it in there only because I have archive memories in hand.
Yeah,
So I
there's the
thought
Jackson
about
there.
it, but then I was like, no, I have an archive memories in hand, so let's just take back an Ichi. In hindsight, I don't know if that was the correct choice. There could have been plenty of other targets. Probably more money, or probably the Jackson.
Yeah.
Would have been a
Plus,
better
you have,
choice.
I think, a team sponsorship in hand and one on the board. So it's possible you could score out and just use team sponsorship in order to get it back.
Correct.
So Architect Res was fun. Maybe not the most optimal play, but at least it was
But
fun.
it didn't get trashed.
Yeah. And Kronos goes off. Ooh, this looks like a fun little bluff. Going Kronos naked and putting the team sponsorship behind that Turing. What's your thought behind there?
Yeah, so I was just, I wanted her to burn David. I wanted her to go check that. That seems like a smart play to go and check that. I put that Adonis down because I need the money. Plus, it also opens up, more choices for her to do. And I kind of left that out there, making her think it's a Jackson. So I'm hoping that she doesn't touch that. But you'll see a lot of players, they have so many options at this point in the game. They won't check every remote. So I kind of left that out there, just hoping she won't touch it.
Now, we do have another imp for you, Holly.
Yeah.
So now's the time to
Hit those remotes.
run amok, figuratively speaking, but not literally speaking.
I do think the open Kronos project was a good play. Just it's like he was saying, at this point there's so many options that, and I know he's behind on money, that I'm just assuming he's trying to put out as much of his money assets as he can, but he's also, like he said, he's playing catch up, so he's got to keep some agendas flowing too. And so of the options, I'm going to assume that it's the one behind Turing is the value card.
And one thing we're pointing out here is that we've noticed that you were over memory once you installed that Mimic.
Yes.
And so you decided that you were just you would have just trashed the Parasite as part of that. But so the Parasite is in the bin when the Kronos happens. So all those things go away. All 3 Parasites are gone, and I think 2 Deja Vus.
Yep.
So that is pretty devastating. How are you feeling?
Actually,
at this point?
it might have been all 3 Deja Vus.
Really? Wow.
I could be wrong, but I think it might have been all 3. It was pretty devastating. I really thought I was in a bad spot. I was in a bad spot. The 2 imps out were really nice. That did give me a little safety net for when he starts playing a little even more horizontally, as ETF is kin to do. But at this point, I'm just trying to think on what sort of game plan I can follow now, knowing that I have pretty much no archives or heap.
And so, Travis, your team sponsoring, so you went for the Sansan, and I think you didn't go for the Jackson. You went for something else?
No, I put the Jackson
Oh, you
back
did
out.
put the Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay.
I probably should have gone for a Breaker Bay Adonis, but I saw an imp out. Whatever I put out, I knew was going to get taken off the board, and so that's why you see me shrugging there and trying to figure out, okay, what do I put?
Yeah.
So she, like you can see here, she goes and takes that off the board with an imp.
Yep. So do you know what that ice is that was in front of that Sansan?
It's a Turing.
Oh, okay, so you didn't have enough to res it.
Yeah, and if I did, she has 2 David counters still.
And here you're looking through the what you Kronosed away. I think you're looking to see if you got the clot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were pretty confident you got the clot.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. She had Deja Vu'd it back into her hand.
Yeah, I believe that's currently in her hand. I think that she had 1 in hand when you scored, and that was it.
Yeah. I only run one of them in this deck,
Okay.
so...
it looks like you're not popping Jackson here. You're going to let her trash?
Yeah, I looked at my hand and I was, wait, I have an archive memories. And I noticed she was kind of poor. I mean, she drops down to 2 credits here. I figure I just go archive memory it back and put it back on the board for an ETF credit,
Oh, that's fair.
So I think there's 2 at this point. We miscounted earlier. So
Okay.
I think there's I've used 1. I think at some point I noticed 2 Jacksons in there.
She might have milled one at some point that you weren't keeping track of.
Correct.
We may have missed with our camera angles here. So, what is the game plan now, Holly? He's still poor. You're poor. What are we thinking we want to do?
The game plan here, just based off the experience that I've had with a lot of ETFs that I've played in some of the recent store championships, is saying I'm getting near the end of my deck, so I don't have a lot of ammo for Faust. At this point, I still had a lot of viruses in hand, even though I did lose a bunch. So I see his deck is starting to get thin. I just start focusing more on milling. At that point, I know it's just kind of my safer bet, and to know that, this is when I'm starting to realize he's probably got a bunch of agendas in hand, and I know I run at it relatively soonish. But yeah, the big thing I'm looking at right now is just milling and handling that team sponsorship.
Mm-hmm. At what point in your game plan do you switch from I want to win by scoring to I want to win by milling?
It depends on the matchup. I think when it's the Glacier ETFs, it's pretty much when I see Caprice.
Mm-hmm.
Or when I'm confident they can keep a Caprice out. As far as against Fast Advance or similar decks, pretty much as soon as... I think it's just a big psychological thing for me that I really pay more attention to not just my, but their deck size if I get Chronos projected.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have to say, oh, well, all those resources are gone. What do I have left? And I think it's a big psychological thing for a runner when they start having to really pay more attention to how limited their resources are. And you have to be even more thoughtful about what you're using to ASOPs, things like that. So I'm seeing him ice up that remote even more. At this point, the thought process is he knows that he's done a really big hit to me, and so he's going to try and score out the agendas that I had assumed were in his hand. And so this is the point where I just have to say, I have to hit that remote every time. I have to...
I believe you have one David counter left.
I have one David counter left here.
And I think it's next silver. Let's find out what it was. Indeed it is, which you could break with Faust.
Yep.
And I think that is an accelerated beta test in there.
Correct. So, I mean, I've just Chronos protocoled her whole deck. I'm hoping to burn cards for Faust, right? She's going to have to get 3 remotes using Faust and David counters. Sure. At some point, it's going to run out. And she is on 0, so I felt, if she chooses to run, she'll get 2 points. Fine. If she doesn't, I get 2 points and I'm on game point.
Yeah.
So I'm looking to burn her hand now.
So that's the game plan, is burn the hand and see if you can just outlast Faust in order to score out?
Correct. A lot of Faust decks, I mean, if they're not running Levy, you'll see they'll get to a point where, like, oh, I can't get into any server because I don't have enough cards for Faust to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly why I mentioned before that I, after this game, I've swapped out the clone chip for the Levy. Because it's so tremendous to be able to keep that Faust ammo going, as opposed to Faust just becoming worthless once you hit the end of your deck.
Mm-hmm. However, in this case, Levy wouldn't be terribly... Well, I suppose it could still be helpful in this case, because you can just get enough viruses to mill out. Because it seems like you still have quite a few viruses left, even after more than half your deck was Chronosed away.
I do. That's actually... I think that entire hand is like 3 viruses and a corroder right there. Mm-hmm. And so even if I had a Levy at this point, I just discarded the David. And so that would have let me get David back, which also would have been pretty big, considering how reliant HB is on Turing oftentimes.
Mm-hmm. Now we've seen archive memories for a Cyberdex virus suite out of Travis. So happy for the archive for the Cyberdex. Maybe, I guess at this point you're just trying to bait the run?
Yeah, and I think that archive memory probably should have been a Jackson, but I had another one in hand, so I just went ahead and put it down there and hope she ran into it to the CVS.
That deck looking a little bit thin, but Holly herself has drawn her last card from her deck. So I can't tell exactly how many cards are left in R&D, but it's pretty thin. I
think at this point there's about 8 or 9. I don't remember. But there's only
I
about...
think I would say it's about 8 or 9 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so you ditched the Faust here, Holly. So you have Mimic, you've got Corroder, so no Codegate Breaker.
Correct.
But at least you can deal with next silvers that might show up.
Yes. At this point, I know that, like I said, my hand is 3 viruses right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say, even if I hit a Codegate, his deck is already so thin. Is it worth throwing away my opportunity to win by milling in order to get an extra access? And the answer to that is no.
Now, I believe there's 2 foods, and then that Mother Goddess, and there's the archive, and it gets imped away.
Now this is where I know I've lost the game. I mean, I really wanted her to take one of those Global Food Initiative agendas. You know, put her on 4 points. That's fine. I really needed that Jackson Howard, and so now I'm looking at the situation, going, I'm probably in a bad spot here. You know, and I think I went to this game thinking she had Levy. So I thought she was going to levy and just switch to milling. So I'm trying to figure out what to do here. So I go ahead and put that down, and you know, I can't. She's going to keep running my hand. It's only 2 credits for Corroder to get in there.
Now you did draw a Biotic. Now you haven't seen Clot. That's presumably still on hand. Are you afraid? So you went ahead and installed the ABT. What about the option of just moneying up and trying to Biotic the ABT out?
And you know, that option, I thought about it post-game, probably would have been the best option. So to money up, ice that remote, and then set up for that last GFI, you know, install advance and wait to Biotic out to win. But I didn't think about it at the time. I was kind of panicking, you know, and in HQ, because she had killed my archive memory, so I have no way to Jackson back certain things that I need. And so I'm just putting down things in remotes where, in hindsight, I probably should have set up for a Biotic play into a GFI.
So Holly ran and clicked all the way through Turing and got that CVS, purging her imps, sadly, but she did get that GFI steal.
Yeah.
And I think that was a Vikram 1.0 that just went over that remote.
It was indeed.
Oh boy, that'll be fun.
I think, just speaking of Vikram, I think Kalagota has introduced a lot of really good cards, and I think Vikram is honestly one of the strongest ice that HB's gotten in a while. I just think it's hard to get through. It's 5 strength, I believe.
Yes, 5 strength, 6 to res, 3 subroutines.
So it's costly to res, but it's a high enough strength to make breaking it with breakers annoying. But the subroutines are all rough enough to know that you have to break them.
And you do have to break them all in this case, or else Travis would name Corroder as a program that you can't use, and then you couldn't get in the server.
Correct. Well, I actually, at this point, this run was entirely reliant on using all of my clicks for Turing. And so I knew that I wasn't going to get in because I don't have David out right now.
Right.
And so at this point, I'm trying to say, well, I think this is when I asked him about how many cards are in his deck, and he had, I think, 3 or 4. We thought 3, but
3.
And it was 4 because you drew, and there were 3 left, I think. But I had 3 viruses in hand, and so that's the point where I had to say, you know, how many clicks should I spend, or should I just take 1 brain damage and still install the other 2 viruses this turn? So I know I think about this for a long while, but if I would have taken a brain damage, I would have lost one of those viruses. And at this point, when I realize how small his deck is, and I just know that I have to go forward with milling, I just decide that it's worth losing that 1 click to keep the exact amount of viruses I need to completely just mill his deck.
True. And another thing worth noting is that even if there is an agenda in that server, Travis is still only at 1 credit with that Vikram res.
Correct. And he wouldn't be at game point.
True.
Yeah, at this point of the game, I mean, she had imped out all my team sponsorships. She killed that archive memory. I'm at this point. And at this point, I know I'm gonna lose, and so I just started installing things, and I don't know how else I could have gotten out of this situation. Even if I do install advanced at Global Food Initiative, I wouldn't have any other ice to install over that server to protect it.
True.
I mean, she pays 2 credits for Corroder and clicks through. She'll see everything that gets put in there unless I put an ice over it.
Now, if this game had gone on a little bit longer, then it's certainly possible that with that Vikram Turing server, you would have a chance to score stuff out, because it sounds like Holly's not really going to be able to get in the server with the tools that she currently has available.
Correct.
Because I think you've basically got to click all the way through, and it looks like you do. Or actually, no, I think you let the program sub fire and then jack out.
Yes, that's correct. I let the program sub fire, and I clicked the other 2. So that would have left me with 1 click left. And I jacked out, and I put down the data sucker.
Now, Travis is sitting here with 1 credit, 2 agendas in hand, and I think 3 cards left in R&D.
Yeah, I think Holly was correct
2,
in pointing out that there was 4, because I drew 1 and then there was 3 left.
Yeah, or I think
I'm saying
It's-
2
yeah.
at this point. Yeah.
It was
Or maybe it is 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a small number
Yeah.
Between 1 and 4.
somewhere.
So yeah, it seems like at this point it's all but over. And I think Holly in hand, you said you installed one virus, that data sucker, and then you just have to install 2 more, and basically with no recursion, this game is basically in the bag at this point.
Yeah, I think there was a lamprey and the clot in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And Holly, I mean, she has several avenues to victory here. She could run archives. She could run my hand and see 2 of those agendas. I mean, that agenda is fine. I mean, I won't win off that.
So credit advance. Just hoping that there's no more viruses left, I suppose.
Yep. I was hoping there was 1 levy, but even if she levies, she'll get. It is likely that she'll get tons of viruses. But she
Yep.
did have 2 of them, and so it's game over at this point.
2 viruses, pass the turn. She's going to go and run just for fun. And yeah, there's a couple of agendas there too. So winning both on milling and agendas.
Those were both pretty good games.
So congratulations, Holly. Coming back from that huge Kronos hit and able to close it out in a bit of a slog there. But Noise is triumphant over HB Fast Advance. So thank you guys both for playing. And so we are going to go back over and talk about this game a bit and talk about what we learned and your guys' final thoughts. So we will jump over there right now.
All right, we are back. Holly, Travis, great game. Congratulations, Holly. Well played. Well played to both of you, really. And thank you so much for letting us watch that game. Holly, how did you feel about that game? What were some things that were going through your mind in terms of 1 or 2 things that stood out to you as things you could improve or things you just learned as part of the game?
One thing that I definitely think was poor playing on my part was not checking HQ sooner.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's important to pick up on, to really consider any location that the Corp might have agendas at the moment. And so knowing that he wasn't playing many, knowing that I wasn't milling any, that's when I should have said they're in HQ most likely and gone their way sooner than I did, because I didn't until very late in the game.
True. And I think toward the end of the game, you were getting a little bit flooded there, too. I think at the end, you had like 3 agendas in hand.
Yeah, I had plenty in hand.
Sure.
But I definitely think ETF is scary. I think it's good right now, whether you're fast advancing or glaciering up. I think it's definitely one of the top Corp decks right now.
Absolutely. I would agree. Travis, how about you on the other side of the table from Noise? How are you feeling about that game? What do you think about how it went?
You know, I honestly think Holly did a great job. There were certain plays probably that could have been better on my side. I think that one of them being Jackson. I kind of let her trash Jackson and, you know, kind of took it for granted, thinking, you know, I have archived memories in hand, I can pull them back. That was probably a big misplay on my part. Something I'm noticing with my deck is I'm really poor. So there probably should be a plan to change that deck to help me get more money. Because with the Sand res cost and you know, big guys like Vikram and Ichi, I'm going to be poor most of the game. So I need to figure out a better economic strategy.
Okay. Are there any changes that you're thinking about making? You mentioned the levy. Anything beyond that, you think? Or are you just going to keep on going?
I think the levy is, that's a pretty huge change that I think, honestly, from in a post most wanted list world is going to be an absolute necessity for Noise. Having lost the clone chips, I think that's going to be huge. The run-amucks were very much experimental, but I think they serve their purpose well. It's sort of like an inside job for Anarchs. So I'm going to kind of keep playing around with that to see how it goes in the future. But overall, I think Noise is a pretty straightforward. He's pretty straightforward as far as building goes. And so, you know, there's the room for the bit of variance, like how I mentioned, I've got 3 imps instead of the typical 1 or 2 maybe. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with at least my current structure as far as the deck goes.
Cool. Well, thank you both for coming on this first episode of The Art of Running. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope all of you enjoyed watching as well. I hope you were able to learn something, pick up some tips from these 2 excellent players. So, until next time, this is Ben with PeachHack, logging off.